Hello, welcome back to Up the Villa. This is our tactical debrief. Liverpool 2, Aston Villa 0. And it's been a while since me and Earl have done a debrief together. Probably why Villa's form has fallen off a cliff, because we don't have Earl's complete insight after each performance. So, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad.
Yeah, another loss, 4 in a row, which is bitterly disappointing. But there were signs of a more Unai Emery-like performance, which I think was pleasing for me because, it's not been great, and I don't like losing. Villa don't like. Well, we don't lose that often anymore. So when we are on this bit of a slump, I think it was important that we saw aspects and some positive aspects. So just want to get your thoughts in general of how you're sort of feeling and what's your sort of vibe of what might not be going right at Villa at the minute.
Oh, how long have you got?
We could be here
No,
all day, mate.
it's been a run, a bit of a poor run. But yeah, it's not the end of the world, is it? I mean, we've been on worse runs in the past in my lifetime. So yeah, it's just stick the course, and I'm sure it'll all come good eventually. But yeah, as for what's going wrong, I think there's a few things. I think silly mistakes and conceding poor goals has always been a thing, really. But I think accompanied by that, I think we've not really scoring as many goals, to be honest. You always kind of feel like watching Villa that we've got to score 2 or 3 to win, really, because we're always going to feel like we're always going to concede. So yeah, I mean, it's just basics, really. Cut out those silly goals and get back to scoring ways, I think.
Yeah, we are going to go in depth on the performance against Liverpool, which will probably tie in with areas that we feel are looking that they need improvement. I think one thing that I will to just touch on before we get into it is the importance of taking the rough with the smooth. And we've been on this amazing journey with Emery, which has been on a complete upward trajectory. And it has just been like that. And we have got this little bit of a stumbling block of 4 losses, but perspective of currently we're not far off the top 4. And I just feel like just stick together, because we've got an elite manager who is a real student of the game. Like, he loves it. And I imagine right now he's going to have his head in a laptop on an iPad studying what's been going wrong and what needs improving. And I think this break comes at a perfect time for us, really, to sort of just reassess, take stock, have a look at what's going on, and just come back after this break with a more positive mindset. And one win, one positive performance against Palace, and that feel good positivity going into Juventus, it's back there. So I think calm probably is needed a little bit, because I don't think we are as bad as what's being made out at the minute, really. And yes, there are areas that need to improve. We can all see that. But Emery's elite, and he'll get this going again. So right, we're gonna have a look then at Earl's graphics. Amazing graphics. I know he's been working hard behind the scenes on a lot of these as well. And yeah, the knowledge and the skill to perform these are brilliant. So, not the best passing network you'll ever see from Villa. So, what's going on with the passing network against Liverpool, Earl?
Yeah, I was first of all to mention I've split it into first half and second half this week. It's a little bit different between the two halves, which we'll see. But yeah, the first half here, there's a lot kind of out wide, wasn't it? A lot down the wings. Probably because of Liverpool's press, they kind of had it was McAllister and Jones, wasn't it? kind of sticking to Onana and Tielemans in kind of at the base of our double pivot. So that kind of meant our play kind of went out wide and down the wings. I thought Ramsey did a good job, breaking the press at times and getting through. But yeah, what were your thoughts on the first half, Luke?
Yeah, I was frustrated in the first half. I think that's when Ramsey went off, wasn't it? First half
Right, yeah,
was how defensively minded he was, and picking up that ball from deep and carrying it and offering that threat. Really, you can see where he was picking up the ball. 41. He's probably where he was picking it up and driving with it. And I thought he was such a threat. And when I'm talking about this performance, and okay, it wasn't perfect from certain players, but there were signs of good parts of their game in there. And I felt like Ramsey was good in there. I felt like Bailey's defensive work was really, really good. I think I spoke about it on the reaction, how he was coming inside a bit more, and that's where he was occupying space with that front three and then the three midfielders just below it. So I think that was okay. And yeah, it's going to be difficult to play out from the back against Liverpool and play with possession, because they press really well and they win the ball. They win duels, they win tackles. So, it will be probably, from a Villa point of view, a broken up passing network, because we are being disrupted by how good the opposition are. But yeah, I thought it was good. I thought, yeah, that link up there between Rodgers and Watkins is fine. And yeah, second half, we've got a little bit more of a box in there with Powell's network, with Onana and Rodgers and Tielemans. And yeah, the wide play probably wasn't as prominent, was it? You can see out wide that Conser to Bailey, and then second half, that network has disappeared, hasn't it? So this will lead me on. We will talk about Jadon at some point as well. But second half, would you say the network wasn't as good, or would you say it was better?
Well, the first thing that sticks out to me is John Duran, number 9. Average position there is almost in 4. Now, I base this off of touches, so it's the average position of where he got his touches. He only had 8 touches, so it's not a lot to go on. But the majority of those were in our own half, and that's not really what you want from your number 9. Didn't really get him many shots as well. Don't think he took a shot after he came on. So yeah, that's the big one that stuck out to me there. And then kind of the shape of the back 4 or the back 3. Obviously, Dean went off in this half, and Maatsen came on. But I think with Pau, Carlos, Conser, in the second half, it became more of a back 3, I think, as opposed to kind of your back 4 and Conser trying to be more like a traditional right back, which I know a lot of people don't really like him doing. But I think the second half, when it was a bit more of a back 3, Jadon, the width on the right, probably suits Conser a bit better than trying to be that overlap player, and which he's not going to be.
Yeah, there was one time in the game where Conser really got into a good position, and he just dwelled and the delivery was not great, and that shows what Conser does when he gets into that position, because it's not his game. Touching on Duran then, and we'll touch on Jadon in this sort of mini sub part of our episode. There's a lot of talk about Watkins, Duran together, not together. What Duran does when he comes on compared to Watkins. Where are you aligned with that partnership, or lack of partnership?
Yeah, I think it's difficult. Difficult to get them both into the same team with the way that we play. So if you do want to get them both into the same team, then you'd have to change, the whole play style. We have to be more, direct, and you think of an Emery side, and we want to have that kind of control, control of the game and in midfield and that kind of thing. And when we have Watkins and Duran on together, especially, you kind of lose that control. It kind of breaks up the box midfield, because I know you might have McGinn, for example, on the right, who's coming into the top of that box, but there's kind of more distance to get there, if you know what I'm saying, from the right to that kind of attacking midfield position, rather than when you have the kind of the two up top in that defensive shape, and then the second striker is just like dropping back into that space, if you get what I'm trying to say. It's a bit different with distances. So Duran's, for me, he's not going to be that kind of player. But yeah, with his average positions as well, if you look, it's quite different to Watkins, like we just saw. He's more coming deep. But yeah, it just doesn't work for me. I'm not sure it will with how we play, unless we're going to change something, like I say.
Yeah, because I think every Villa fan will, and we can all say this, that Watkins off the ball is very good. What Watkins offers off the ball is quite important to the way that we play, the way that we press. The areas that Watkins can get into is really promising. And it sometimes feels like when Duran comes off the bench and he's coming into a game, we don't get that type of play from Duran. Do you feel like if Duran was to start games, he could run into those channels like Watkins does? Or do you think that's not his game at all?
I think it is. I think he can. But I don't think he does as often as Watkins. So I think if you have Duran, you'd also want an extra runner in behind from a winger, which I don't think we have in the squad.
No.
So you'd maybe pair. They're both left-footed, but if we still had like Diaby, for example, you have a Duran and Diaby. Then when Duran is kind of dropping in and we're putting the ball up to him and he's winning an aerial duel and flicking it on or something like that, you've then got a runner in behind with him. Which I guess you could say Watkins does, but then, like I say, we're losing that control in midfield as well. So it's you got to pick what you want, really.
Yeah, and just touching on how this conversation is evolving, it's got me thinking now about our creativity and about what's lacking, because we can all see that at the moment in time that it's just not working, is it? But the more I think about it a little bit more now, and the more we start thinking about bodies getting into the box or creative areas, if we look at the makeup of our team, do you feel like the ground that we have to cover for some players to sometimes get into an attacking area, they're having to make up a lot of ground? So, for example, like especially on that left-hand side, the amount of ground that Digne's got to cover to get into an attacking area, the way in which Ramsey might have to break from deep in these areas, and then we've got width on that right. Rodgers generally is in and around that area as well. Do you think, as much as Watkins can sometimes get a bit of criticism, do you think sometimes it's like you're on your own and you've got to just create something, because where are the options coming from? Do you think there's anything within that's a bit of a problem with how we sort of attacking? Because if you look at our midfield too, Onana's not going to get forward. Douglas Luiz got forward a little bit, didn't he? He was a bit more attacking in a progressive area than what Tielemans is. I really like how Tielemans is playing, and Tielemans can pick a pass. But if you're thinking about players for Villa that can get into an attacking area, can overlap, can get forward, you're basically saying it's these three players here: Ramsey, Watkins, Rodgers, Bailey on the right, Digne if he makes up that ground. Do you think I'm onto something there, or do you not see that as a problem?
Yeah, I think that's why Maatsen was brought in, probably. Dean's been brilliant, but Maatsen's a bit more Dean's attack minded, but Matson's a bit more kind of get to the byline and play a cutback kind of thing. So a bit further forward. So, but yeah, it's been hard to get him into the side, isn't it?
Why do you think it's taking that amount of time to get him in the side? Is it because Digne is better defensively? 'Cause when I did the preview, I said Digne generally always does defend Salah pretty well, and I actually felt like Salah was pretty quiet in this game, apart from the breakaways, the goal that he scored, and the Leon Bailey. I think he was pretty quiet, really.
Yeah, I think it's to do with Pau Torres. To be honest, I think having Matson and Pau Torres on that side is a bit lightweight. They're both not the best box defenders. So I think in the Champions League we saw Matson with Mings. I think that's maybe why Mings was in there. But yeah, it's a difficult one. It's really difficult.
Well, thank God we've got the international break, and Emery can study it and look at it and figure out, what needs to happen, really, because we can see, fans can see, Emery can see. It's not like we've got a manager that can't see what we can see. He's fully aware. So I think he's just got to just fine tune some things. Then, so we've got another brilliant new graphic, which we've seen before, but we've got first half, second half here. So what can we see on this one?
Yeah, this is just kind of to support the passing networks that we saw before, but it's kind of removing the players and just showing the areas where the ball is going into. So you've got your heat map, and it's showing the end locations of passes. So trying to show where we're trying to get the ball into. Now against Liverpool, obviously they had most of the territory and we were kind of in our own half. So you can see that in both halves there. But yeah, first half kind of a lot with Emi Martinez in his box there, and then down the right. Second half, a bit more down the left hand side, you'd say, and kind of that area where Tielemans and Pau Torres like to get on the ball a bit more. We'd want that to be in their half, but against a team like Liverpool.
Yeah, no, I think it's brilliant, really. Here's one that I felt like this was pretty good from Bailey's point of view. I think this was probably one of Bailey's best areas of influence, really. You can see him trying to get into sort of like the 18-yard box area, doing a lot of defensive work. So I think this one was pretty good from Bailey, to be fair. This one isn't so good. When I see something red, I always think we've got a bit of a problem and it's not working. So what we're seeing on this one?
Yeah, this is a new one. Over the past few weeks, it's when you watch Villa, you kind of think about, our final ball isn't good enough a lot of the time. So I'm trying to find a way to kind of show that and visualize that and track that. So we've got here, I've split the pitch just into the final third. And what I'm specifically looking at is passes into the box. And I split it between the top. The top is successful passes into the box, and then the second one is unsuccessful. So I've just split them because it just makes them easy to see rather than having loads of passes on the same graph. But anyway, the green passes there I've called key passes, and those are passes which have led to a shot within 5 seconds of the pass. And I've taken out corners as well. So yeah, I mean, what you can see is clearly there's more unsuccessful passes into the box than there are successful. Yeah, I mean, that's probably to be expected, but we want to be getting that percentage up. Like I say, the final ball that we've been playing has been wanting at times, been a bit lacking. Maybe overcooking, undercooking, maybe not playing the pass at the right time.
I think that's highlighting in sort of what we can all see as well with the attack, with getting into some good areas, and it's just not clicking, it's not coming off. But if you have to spin it as a positive, we're getting into some all right areas, and I think hopefully, like some of these passes do start coming off, then you're creating more chances. So yeah, I think that's something that we've both spoke about over the last couple of weeks anyway, that those nearly moments, those moments where you're nearly in, or that final, it's nearly there. Like, we've really got to make sure that we're being ruthless, but also looking after the craft that we've got, I think. So, making sure that we are just clicking all the time and making the right decisions. So I think that's important. So this one's brand new. Absolutely love this one. I love a bit of XG, and I love seeing where it comes from, etc. So I think everybody's sort of clued up on XG, but this one's really good what you've done. And again, Villa's XG 1.66, which it's high. Like, we should be scoring at least a goal in this game, and for whatever reason we're not taking it. What was Rodgers' XG on that chance in the second half?
That was a point I was going to make. It was quite low XG, and
Really?
that's what.
Why would that be low though? Because he's literally like facing up the keeper.
Yeah, it's one of them where the XG is not a perfect science, is it? It's not a perfect science. So that was just after half time, 45th, 46th minute, wasn't it? That was a bigger chance than what the XG shows. Probably it depends where you get your XG from. Different sites calculate it differently. I got this one from understat.com. But yeah, they take into account kind of how close defenders are to the player and that sort of thing. So when I watched it, I thought that, it was a big chance. Saw the XG wasn't that high, maybe because there was a defender right next to him. But yeah, for me, that was a big chance and bigger than what the XG says it was.
Do you think he needs to work on his finishing?
Yeah, I think he should have scored that 100%. Yeah. I think it's a weird one. I've seen him play for the under-21s England, and I know there's a bit of controversy whether it's, should he or shouldn't he play in those. But when I've seen him play for England under-21s, he just seems to hit the ball a bit better. For Villa, he always seems to miss hit it. I don't know, just a bit of a like dribble shots, and never kind of gets a clean strike on it. So yeah, I don't know. Something he needs to work on.
Yeah, I just think he needs to just kill, just somehow breathe. I think that's a big thing within players. You'll see certain players that, Watkins is exactly the same. Like, some players, time slows down. Mo Salah time slows down. Darwin Núñez, time speeds up when he gets some opportunities. You've seen it where he's had a reaction one where he probably just rounds the kick, doesn't have to think about the finish, scores. He's had one where he's through. He's got to think about where he's got to hit it, what type of finish he's got to do, and he misses. So I think he's just got to really just calm it down, breathe, compose himself, and just slot it away, because he gets in some really good areas. Like, we've spoke about this, even when he was going through that patch at the start of the season, like, his finishing has been a thing that we've spoke about. And again, like what we were saying, he's getting into the areas which is the most important part, really. I mean, the next part is like he's got to finish it, but the fact that he gets there, he's good. He's just now got to just rein it in. And
the thing with Núñez, yeah, he puts his foot through it every time. It doesn't hit the target sometimes, but there's just a lot of the time I just find myself wishing that Rodgers would just put his foot through it. There were times, I know the chance we're talking about was kind of off the left and coming in onto his right, but I feel like a lot of the times for Villa, he's kind of on on the right side and coming in and doesn't want to shoot with his left, and it's not really the right angle for his right foot. And I think that's a lot of the time the problem. So I do like him, but I do prefer him off the left. But yeah, like I say, this chance was off the left, coming onto his right foot, and should have done better for me.
Yeah, and it's a big moment in the game for Villa, because straight after half time, we were well in that game. Even as that game petered on, even before Liverpool got the second, I felt like we can create something. I always felt like we've got an opportunity at some point. It's going to land, but unfortunately, they go up the other end of the pitch, score, etc., which wasn't great for Villa. So we're just gonna analyse the first goal. We're just gonna have a little look at it and see what actually happened, and then we'll get Earl's thoughts. So we've done this a lot this season, and it's been the corner into the near post. We've done it a lot. We heavily congested it. The ball goes in, it hits the first Villa man, so it hits the first Villa player, and the ball goes into this next phase where I think it's Konsa who's trying to get this ball. You can see him here, sort of tussling with a Liverpool player. So we now
Ramsey,
start. Was it Ramsey?
I think it was Ramsey.
We're now starting to get into sort of a second phase of this set piece now. First phase was Villa. Second phase is now about to be Liverpool. The ball's going to now land into this sort of area. And as soon as that hits that second phase, Liverpool are on their bikes. Do you think we're okay set here or not? Or do you think it's how Luca Dean sort of reacts to it? Because he sort of goes that way, doesn't he? And then he sort of has to check back. Where are your thoughts with how we defended this? Because we did it twice. So it's not like, oh, you're being harsh like the first time. Like the second time, this exact same thing happened. So we did try and set up like this to sort of defend if we got countered.
I think it's a bit, but I think it was a bit of luck for me.
With how this now falls at this sort of phase, how it lands at Van Dijk.
Yeah. So if you go back to the previous one.
Okay. That one.
Yeah. So here, the ball goes into is a slightly different corner routine to what I've seen before, but it's similar kind of thing where usually there's a few blockers and Pau Torres loops around, but I think he started on the goal line and then came up from there. But either way, it's Pau Torres front post, wasn't it? And then he flicks it on into the middle. But look, there's no one there. So have they executed the attacking set piece correctly? In the second example where Núñez gets the second chance, I think Watkins runs round into the middle. So I don't know if on this one he was supposed to also do that, but he didn't. But yeah, Pau gets the flick on around into the penalty spot. There's a lot of space there. We've just got no one there. So for me, that's they've not executed and there's a miscommunication. Now the second thing why I say it's luck, and not necessarily, luck's not always the best word, but I don't know, randomness or whatever you want to say. Ramsey gets his foot to the ball, and it's one of them where it could have gone anywhere. Yeah, but it goes straight to Van Dijk, who plays it forward. And on the second one, for the second Núñez chance, Ramsey gets his foot to the ball as well, and it drops to a Liverpool player. So I think it's kind of one of them where the ball could have gone anywhere. But also, you're looking at it as well. All those players are on the goal line. Van Dijk is in the mix of all them players, and he's the one that sprints out and gets the ball. So could one of our players sprinted out and got the ball? Because they're all within the same area, and Van Dijk is the one who runs and gets it.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of Dean and Bailey, I don't know. I think they're in the right position.
Yeah. Yeah. So we did then get into another really good opportunity. This is where we want Watkins. Like, you want him 1v1, Kanate. We go into the box. We can see the arm. Oh, pen or no pen?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think you go with whatever the referee says there. I don't think it's one for VAR to overturn. If that was against us and VAR got involved there, I think I would probably be annoyed. If the ref blew a pen there, it's a pen, I think. So yeah, one of them.
And looking at this now, yeah, to bury it, didn't he? Like, looking at, he's closer than what I thought he was, to be fair.
Yeah.
So it's a huge chance. I mean, he could have, even if he needed to, knock it to Bailey, I guess. But yeah, he needs to be finishing this. And then finally, the last screen grab is Carlos having an absolute mare and then heading it to Salah and the break. So yeah,
I think this was a difficult one. It was difficult. The bounce, like, I'm making excuses for Carlos here. It was absolutely horrendous. The bounce of the ball, it's not at a good height because it's like half between a header, and you can't really get a volley to it. But I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing. He should have just put it into touch, shouldn't he?
Yeah.
But he didn't.
I think we because we're in this bit where we're trying to build that intensity. We're trying to push on. It's one of those where he's thinking, do you know what? Nice little dinker. It'll go to Matson. Matson can turn it, and yeah. So it's one of them where these.
Yeah, if you look at the position there, if it goes to Tielemans or Matson, we're golden, and we've got we're on for a chance. but it doesn't. So
yeah, and I think it's just our look at the minute, really. So yeah,
I've got to say as well. I think maybe a bit harsh, but when they were going back, I think Konsa should have stopped Salah. He was running with Salah. I don't know if it was maybe just the camera angle on the TV, but he looked close enough to Salah for me to maybe try and affect the shot. But then last minute he tries to run onto the line. I think that kind of confused Martinez as well a bit because he was running with Salah and then he wasn't. So Martinez didn't keep a charge. He kind of stayed on his line as well. Yeah, maybe that's a bit harsh, but yeah, frustrating goal to concede both of them. Conceding from your own corner and then that mistake.
Yeah, so plenty to work on, plenty to get better at, and I'm sure Emery will be looking at it over the international break. Earl, been great having you back on for a debrief. Unfortunately, it's a losing debrief, but you're back on and your insight is really good, and it kind of makes I feel better talking to you and seeing what's gone on in the game as well. So, up the Villa.
Up the Villa.